Welcome to our World News Update for November 25th, 2020. Since our last update, there's been much transpire over the recent months. First, the elections. As of this day, things still aren't settled. Though the news is declaring Biden the winner, there's much controversy in several states. Trump's lawyers appear to still be running full throttle and challenging several of those states. So, what does this mean? What's the possible outcomes? First, politically speaking, all continues as is, and there'll be a transition of the presidency in January. However, while multiple scenarios could play out, there are two I'm concerned about. One would be that the election could be deemed invalid after the challenge from Trump is complete. This would result in a vote in Congress for the presidency, which could likely turn it into a Trump win. If this happens, well, it has the potential to result in several ugly scenarios. On the other hand, if the Trump defense brings enough evidence to the forefront to convince Trump followers there was a mishandling of the elections, but still nothing has changed and Biden is declared the winner, the same ugly scenarios could play out. According to the National Archives and Records Administration, December 8th, 2020 is the date for determination of controversy as to appointment of electors. The National Archives site reads, "States must make final determinations of any controversies or contests as to the appointment of electors at least 6 days before the December 14th meetings of electors for their electoral votes to be presumptively valid when presented to Congress. Determinations by states' lawful tribunals are conclusive if decided under laws enacted prior to Election Day." So it seems as if all electoral controversies have to be settled by December 8th, 2020. This is definitely a time for all to be keeping in prayer. The electors cast their certificates of votes on the first Monday after the second Wednesday of December. That day falls on December 14th this year. However, in some states, the electors aren't required to cast their vote in accordance with their popular vote. Doesn't sound right, does it? The Electoral College site reads, "The electors meet in their respective states to select the President and Vice President of the United States. No constitutional provision or federal law requires electors to vote in accordance with the popular vote in their states." The Supreme Court decided in 2020 that states can enact requirements on how electors vote. Now, quoting from the same site, "While 31 states and Washington, D.C. require that presidential electors cast their vote for the presidential candidate for the party they were selected to represent, the specific requirements and procedures vary. For example, some laws simply state that the electors must vote for the candidate of the party they represent, while others require electors sign an oath or a pledge. Also, some states specify what happens if an elector violates the requirement. For example, in some states, this is treated as a vacancy which is filled accordingly. A few states also provide criminal penalties if an elector violates the requirement. So, as you can see, it has potential to get even more interesting. The deadline for the electoral votes to be turned in is no later than 9 days after the meeting of the electors. So, the President of the Senate and the archivist should have the electoral votes in hand by December 23rd of 2020. As the new Congress assembles, the archivist delivers the certificates to Congress on or before January 3rd of 2021. Now, quoting from the site again, the Congress meets in joint session to count the electoral votes. The President of the Senate is the presiding officer. If a senator and a House member jointly submit an objection, each House would retire to his chamber to consider it. the president and vice president must achieve a majority of electoral votes, 270, to be elected. In the absence of a majority, the House selects the president and the Senate selects the vice president. This counting of the electoral votes in Congress will take place on January 6, 2021. If, at this time, neither of the candidates has 270 votes from the Electoral College, the House selects the president and the Senate selects the vice president. Then, 14 days later on January 20th, 2021, at noon, the inauguration of the president-elect and vice president-elect takes place. So, when it really comes down to it, the election isn't over until January 6th. And, as you can see, several variables can still play a role before the final call of who becomes president. Besides the election turmoil taking place, though, we're still seeing much regarding this year's top story of COVID-19. In fact, recent news reports from NBC and ABC are showing the FDA is in the works to approving a vaccine for COVID-19. Links are provided here and in the description below of these reports. Both are reporting that a vaccine can be approved as soon as December 11th. If it's approved, their plan is to vaccinate all healthcare personnel and first responders within the first 24 hours of approval. After them will be the elderly. After that, they'll begin the vaccination process to all. I've seen where many believers aren't concerned about the vaccine. In fact, many are looking for it. Personally, we're very concerned about it. There are multiple videos out there that discuss what's in these vaccines from multiple doctors and varying beliefs regarding them. So let's set all of that aside for a moment. Have we asked exactly why they're pushing for the vaccination of everyone in the world? The death rate of those who get it is still under 1%. That means over 99% of those who get it survive. Over 99% of those who get it survive. When looking at other causes of deaths in the world and their respective percentages, we're not seeing how COVID-19 is much different from the average illness like the flu. However, they're still wanting to force the vaccination issue. Think of it this way. It's like saying there's less than a 1% chance of rain today. So they're forcing you to wear a complete rain suit with boots to make sure you don't get wet. It wouldn't make any sense. But still, the government is wanting to force the vaccine issue. Speaking of government and how we discussed the election, remember, it's not the government's job to protect our health. That is not written in the Constitution. It's the government's job to protect our freedom and rights. It's our job to protect our health. A friend recently reminded me how those in political positions aren't our, quote, leaders, even though the media constantly refers to them as our leaders. They're supposed to be the political and public servants who protect the rights of the people. Again, they're supposed to be public servants. They're put in office to represent the people, not dictate the people. That was why America broke off from Britain over 200 years ago. However, the government and the media seem to still have a large push in promoting submission, fear, and grave concern over the virus. Just the other day, Fox News released the CDC guidelines for Thanksgiving. The guidelines included: avoid singing and shouting, keep music levels down, limit alcohol. Now, I'm not a medical specialist, but I'm not sure how these guidelines can help someone not get COVID-19. Like I said, it just seems to me there is a constant push for submission and fear. Airlines are beginning to say they'll be requiring the vaccine for international travel. Well, how long will it be until it's required for all flights? Then the question will be, how long will it be until it's required everywhere for everything? If someone wants the vaccine, that's up to them. But why force it on anyone? How many times do we see disclaimers and consent forms required to be signed if you want to do something? Basically saying, you do this at your own risk. We take no responsibility. Why not just put that on the planes? Why not just put that on all the stores? Enter at own risk, not responsible for anything regarding COVID. Why the requirement of a vaccine for everyone? Many places around the world have already begun their new phases of lockdowns. As I've mentioned before, it doesn't take much imagination to see how this scenario can play right into how the mark of the beast can play out. Now, I have no idea if this could be that. However, the idea of if you don't have this, then you can't buy or sell can easily be seen today. And that's what we see here in Revelation 13. There's been lots of speculation over the centuries as to what these verses could be pointing to. And I'm not here to say I have the answer to that question. However, the current scenario we're seeing play out today has an eerie resemblance. And while there may be no negative side effects of the vaccine at first, we can't forget that the mark in Revelation definitely brings one in the end. In other words, it grants you the ability to buy and sell in the world as you wish at first. But later on, the people truly pay for it when the bowls of wrath are poured out, as seen here in Revelation 16. So, scripturally speaking, it wouldn't be until the end that one realizes what they took. When it comes right down to it, everyone has to do what they feel led to do. As I've said before, we're living in a time that seems to be uncharted territory. It's a time that has many truly wondering just how close we are to the end times of the Scriptures. We don't know what the future holds, but we know who does. So, in the coming days ahead, continue to pray more as you walk through your everyday routines. Make more time to read. Make it a point to invest more time into your relationship with our Heavenly Father. This way, regardless of what lies ahead of us, we know we're in good company. Keep your hearts humble in Him as we all learn and grow through these times together. Blessings and shalom.